続き、いよいよエリザベスに話を聞けるということで、R にびっくりマークついてるから、ちょっと見てみよう。真相。だいぶ入れ込んで、どこがびっくり。これ。エリザベスは復讐を目論んだのかもしれない。動機から、エリザベスは他の誰よりも多くを失ったのかもしれない。彼女は復讐を望んでいた可能性がある。ここら辺お話を聞くと。殺人事件を捜査する。じゃあ、聞いてみよう。
Oh, yes, detective.
ご気分はいかがですか、マドモアゼル。
Still not quite myself.
I was surprised when Monsieur Sterling hurried you to assist Madame Vandenbosch last night.
I should not have avoided my duties for so long. The house does not stop because I'm feeling a little under the weather.
That is true, but you cannot be expected to complete all your tasks if you are not in the right frame of mind.
Honestly, detective, it was best for me to not sit and wallow anymore.
で、この週末の捜査では実にいろいろな落とし穴がありました。ルークはストライキにただ参加していたのではなく、最前線にいたのですね。下はいきなり確信なんで上から行くか。
Have you been able to uncover who the blackmailer is?
The blackmailer's identity has been established, and they will pay the price for their crimes.
Wonderful news, detective. You can put it all behind you now. You must be thrilled.
そうなんだけ
I
ど
would
ね。
not say thrilled, knowing that such a close friend has betrayed us.
Mademoiselle is correct. What I have learned over this weekend is that people are not always as they appear. While they may give an impression of being a friend or ally, they can in fact be something completely different.
And, what of the Major's killer?
それ
Well,
は
mademoiselle, that is why I have asked you here now.
そうなんです。で、少佐をどう思っていたか、すべての客人に聞きました。同じ質問をあなたにもしたいと思います。ルークはストライキにただ参加しているの。さっきのやつ。上から行くか。はい。
I'm not quite sure what you want me to say, detective.
Your honest opinion is all I ask, and, s'il te plaît, do not hold back. No one else felt it necessary.
エリザベスもやっぱ最初からは白状しないね。
We only spoke when there was something in the house to be done. We did not speak of interests or pastimes.
You knew of his work with Monsieur de Silva?
I only know what is required of me to know, and that is very little.
But you were aware of his work as security at Monsieur de Silva's factory.
I was.
The factory your beloved Luke worked at before he was cruelly taken from this world.
多くが出てきた。
Yes, detective.
で、これだ。いよいよ確信に入っていく。
Yes, that is where he spent his last moments. Standing shoulder to shoulder with his fellow workers.
The resulting riots were a terrible tragedy, one that I hope we will not have to see or experience again. Something that could have been avoided Had the Major and his team done what was required of them,
Nobody deserved to die that day. Not my Luke.
彼の死は少佐のせいだと思いますか？思いますか？
Detective, what kind of question is that?
ね
it is a straightforward one.
He...
Mademoiselle, if there is something you wish to tell me, now is that time.
そうです。
I'm sorry, Detective, I just don't know how to answer it.
Let us consider what we know of the Major. He fronted the militia that attacked the workers at the strike. You were aware of this?
I...
You finally had someone to blame for Luke's death. Someone conveniently located in the same house, alone in his study.
No, Detective. It wasn't like that.
違う。
Tell me what happened with the Major on the evening of his death.
うん。
I was only in here trying to prove what I heard Mr. Beckers say. I was going to report him, I swear. Miss Angeline, you believe me, don't you?
ベッカースさんが言っていたことってなんだ？なんだ？
I want to. I am still trying to understand it all myself. Why don't you start from the beginning?
うん。
I was delivering Miss Angeline's dress to her room when I heard Mr. Beckers arguing with the Major in his study. They were ever so loud. I thought the whole house would have been listening to what they were saying.
たまたま話を聞いちゃったと。
Mr. Beckers was talking about the factory strikes and how it was the Major's fault. He told him that if he didn't own up to his crimes, he would go to the newspapers.
うん。
I cannot imagine the Major would have taken kindly to Monsieur Becker's threat.
うん。
He didn't. He called him some rather uncouth names before Mr. Beckers left and went downstairs. I made sure to keep out of sight.
うん。
After the altercation between the Major and Master Gideon, you went to speak with him outside, and I thought I could look around his study without anyone knowing. I had to know for sure. If it was true, he deserved to be held accountable.
うん。少佐とポアロが話してる間に部屋に入ったんだ。謝罪に。で、話の真偽を調べたと。探したんだ、なんか証拠。
And did you find the proof you are looking for?
I found a payment from Mr. De Silva, but there was nothing incriminating about that. I was so nervous. I felt like my heart was beating out of my chest.
And then you saw the blackmail note.
脅迫状を見つけ
I
た。
recognized the writing on the envelope. I couldn't believe it. How could he do such a thing to Angeline? To the family that had taken him in?
うん。
Common sense would determine the Major was another victim of the blackmailer.
うん。
If I'd have used common sense, I wouldn't have been snooping around alone in his study in the first place.
これはあれのこと言ってんだっけ？インゲのこと言ってんのかな？インゲかマーゴか。ことを言ってる。うん。
I heard the footsteps in the hall, and before I could move, the Major was standing in front of me, demanding to know why I was going through his belongings without permission. I tried to come up with an excuse, but nothing came out, and when he saw the letter in my hand, it was like Dr. Jekyll turning into Mr. Hyde.
戻ってきたって。調べてる間に戻ってきちゃったのね、翔さんが。
tried to move around him towards the door, but he hurled something towards me and it crashed against the wall.
うん。
That would explain the damage to the wall.
I froze. I have never been so scared in all my life. I thought he was going to kill me there and then.
うん。
And you thought you would beat him to it.
Oh, Detective, you make it sound as though I had it all planned.
うん。
He lunged forward and grabbed me by the arm. I tried to push him away, but he was too strong. His grip just got tighter and tighter.
うん。
If only you had seen the look in his eyes, I dared not even scream. I saw the sheath on his belt. I didn't know what else to do. I didn't want to hurt him, but he wouldn't let go of me.
So you took your opportunity to put an end to it all.
うん。
I just wanted to get him off me. I didn't want to hurt him. I reached for it and I jabbed it at him. His grip instantly loosened and I ran straight out the door and didn't look back.
一撃でよくやった、エリザベス。
You did not even look to see what state you had left him in?
怖いもんね。
She had just been attacked, Detective.
うん。
Oui, please. Continuez.
ポアロさん、ちょっと失言。
I ran down to the pantry looking for Rahana. She took one look at me and knew something was wrong. I explained to her what had happened and she went to find Archie. She said he would know what to do. We went back to the study and he was still lying there, motionless. Archie said that no one would believe me. That if someone like me killed someone like him, I would be sent straight to the gallows. He left the letter so you would find it. He said that if people knew what the Major was really like, then they wouldn't care what happened to him.
見つけられる脅迫状、アーチボルトが置いたんだ。うん。なるほど。
So I am to believe that it was Monsieur Sterling and Mademoiselle Rihanna that cleaned the scene and orchestrated a plan that included a fake telephone call and dressing as the Major so that he may be seen. You had nothing to do with that.
うん。偽造したのはね。二人。
I swear I had no idea that is what they had done. Archie just told me to stay out of sight. I am no master criminal.
うん。
Then Monsieur Sterling and Mademoiselle Rihanna will be charged for obstruction of justice and impeding my investigation.
Please, Detective. They were only trying to help me.
そうなんだけどね。
If they wished to help you, they should have brought all of this to my attention immediately instead of committing more illegal acts.
Surely you haven't forgotten what happened with Florette. She was only accused of stealing a bracelet. I killed a man.
盗んでないんだけどね、フロレットね、実際は。アンジェリンのせいなんだけど。
It is a day I have not forgotten, mademoiselle, even for a moment.
挙動不審になったらアンジェリン。
Without your help, I don't stand a chance. Please, Detective Poirot, you are the only one that can help me.
Oh, Elizabeth, why didn't you come to me?
I didn't think you would believe me.
うん。
I felt so guilty. And when it was announced yesterday that he was a victim of the blackmailer, I wanted to tell you everything. I I came to find you last night, Detective, but Archie stopped me.
そうなんだ。アーチボルトが止めた。
I'm sorry.
やっぱあれか。正当防衛的な感じか。ね。はい、じゃあ、戦争。音が急に止まって。で、こっち。ね。殺人事件どうやってから、エリザベスはストライキに関する証拠を探していた。エリザベスは少佐と彼のストライキへの関与する噂を耳にしたに違いない。ヒューゴと喋ってるところを聞いちゃったと。手段、この犯罪を実行させるために使用した手段、または方法。単純な窃盗ではない。壁をよじ登ってまで侵入した人物がいたとしたら、何か貴重品を盗んでいたのではないだろうか。殺人犯は容易に部屋に入ることができた。証拠は殺人犯が難なく部屋に入り、その少し後でもみ合いが起きたことを示している。あと、こっからやり直すの。紐付けし直すとか。でしょで、何か証拠を盗んだのではないか。盗んでないね。前半の中やないの。こことここでいいのかな。何か貴重者盗んでたのではないか。単純なセットではない。違うってことでいいのかな。
I must act on thought.
ちょっと待って。違うか。殺人犯。だとしたら何か貴重に盗んでいたのではないか。だから、盗んでないよっていうところだよね。こっから紐付け、こっちにもなんか、あるね。エリザベスは少佐から逃げられず彼を刺した。エリザベスの話しぶりから少佐に襲われたという話は真実だと思われる。話しぶり以外にこの話の裏を取ることはできるだろうか。少佐の方が先にエリザベスに手を出しそうになったと。話しぶりぐらいないね。この裏。話しぶりぐらいこの裏。この話の脅迫状か。少佐に襲われた証拠。これ攻撃する。糸があったにしては不自然な傷。自分を守ろうとして。全然わかんない。これにしてみようか。そうだ。
Another success. I never doubted myself.
エリザベスの話はマーゴの主張を裏付けるものだ。少佐の死は身を守ろうとした攻撃が原因だった。傷のことね。マーゴが言ってたもんね。 ついに少佐が殺された事件を解決した。正直に言うと、マドモアゼル・エリザベスが殺人犯だったと明かすのは気が済まないし、彼女がそのような振る舞いをする羽目に陥ったことが残念でならない。ですよね。これで目標達成。エリザベス、正当防衛ということに。復讐の意図はなかったのね。決してね。で、
Oh, yes, detective.
少佐のナイフはどこに？
I don't know where it is.
これがあれだもんね。アーチボルトが。
If you have been honest with me until now, I ask that you continue.
I'm sorry, I really don't know. Archie dropped it out of the study window and he said he would deal with it. I couldn't bear to touch the thing.
そうなのよ。ああ、試したのかな？試しただけ？彼女は自分のしたことを隠すためにムッシュ・スターリングとマドモアゼル・レハナがどれだけ努力をしたのか知らないでいる。ムッシュ・スターリングが彼女のためなら何でもすると言ったのは嘘ではなかった。メルシー・マドモアゼル・シュルブですみませんが、私の部屋でお待ちください。
Please, I was only protecting myself. I didn't want to hurt him. He just wouldn't let me go.
でもこれ何にも無罪方面全く何も罪に問わないわけにはこれでいかないんだよね、きっとね。
Oui, mademoiselle. I know.
なんかちゃんと裁判とかして無罪になる。工程は踏まないとねってなっちゃうよね、きっとね。
Mademoiselle tells quite the harrowing story.
I cannot imagine
一人で行かせたの？逃げちゃうんじゃないの、エリザベス。
But Elizabeth could not make up such a story.
After learning what I have about the Major's character this weekend, I would not question the lengths he would go to in order to keep his secret hidden. I know that you share a close bond with Mademoiselle Elizabeth, but you cannot allow your personal feelings to taint your belief of what took place.
She has committed a terrible crime, but she will live with that for the rest of her life. She's not a cold-blooded killer.
If what she says of the Major's attack is true, she acted in self-defense, and in the law's eyes, a crime has not been committed.
まあそうなんだけど。
I will do everything I can to make sure her story is heard and a fair trial is conducted.
マドモアゼル・エリザベスが供述した出来事はおそらく真実だろう。少佐は自分の下劣な秘密が明るみに出ると思い激怒したのだ。彼は若きマドモアゼルを襲い、彼女は自分を守るためあのような行動を取らざるを得なかった。マドモアゼル・エリザベスが自分で招いた危機ではあったが、少佐の命令によって命を奪われた彼女の恋人、そして他の労働者のため正しいことをしようと義務感に駆られていた点についてはわずかながら称賛する気持ちがある。電話線が普及したのなら捜査の結果を報告しなければならないが、積もった雪を考慮すると隊が到着するまでもうしばらくはかかるだろう。
Mademoiselle, it is time I address the house.
全員と話す？また話すの？全員。 エリザベスが犯人でしたよっていうことを話すのか。
Are you sure? What will you say? What if they do not listen?
I can assure you, they will.
Elizabeth was right, though. She's just a servant. What if they...
Mademoiselle, when Detective Poirot speaks, they will listen. Would you ask the guests to convene in the library?
Of course. And what of the staff?
I have told Monsieur Starling to remain in the staff quarters with the others. When the authorities arrive, they shall be dealt with. You have been of great help to me throughout my investigation. And now that it is over, I have one final
もうあ
request.
れだね。長かったな、言うよ。
You only need to ask.
While I am speaking with the guests in the library, would you watch over Mademoiselle Elizabeth in my room?
You don't think she will try and escape, do you?
ちょっと一瞬思っちゃった、さっき私。
In her position, I do not know what she might try. But I trust with you there, any potential ideas of such a thing will be squashed.
そうだよね。自分を責めて、自分で自分をっていう可能性もあるしね。チャプター9来た。結末、いよいよ来た。長かったけど、まだなんか。
Detective, you have spent more time making us sit and wait for you than anything else.
Madame Van den Bosch, if you think I have spent my time focused on anything besides uncovering the Major's killer, you are sorely mistaken.
I'm sure you will be eager to share your findings with us then.
All in good time, Madame. Firstly, to understand the truth of what has occurred this weekend, one must know the timeline of events that not only preceded the Major's death, but succeeded.
We are all well aware of what happened before, Detective. You can save your breath.
You are only aware of what the guilty parties wanted you to believe. But now I shall apprise you to the true events. The reason for us all being here, you know. The altercation between Monsieur Demire and the Major, you know. The body of Monsieur Hagen was found while we were all sat enjoying a most delicious meal. That you also know. But what was kept from us all was that his body lay on the study floor for far longer than was thought.
It was that servant. She found him.
S'il te plaît, monsieur. It was indeed young Inga that found the Major's body lying lifeless in the study.
So it was her.
Monsieur, I will not allow for any further interruptions. I return to the Major's body. If we are to believe the scene that we were presented with, the Major must have been killed during the first course of our meal, a meal that none of you left, even for a moment. Speaking in the evening, you all confirmed one another's alibis, and although there was doubt in the validity of some, I confirmed that they were indeed all true. What I could not understand was how a man came to be found dead, and every guest accounted for at the time of death. That is until I questioned the latter. Monsieur Beckers, I shall now allow you to speak. You saw the Major smoking a cigar in the snow. Is that true?
It is.
False. You saw what you were meant to see. Someone in the Major's coat standing outside, giving the illusion that the Major was still very much alive. Monsieur da Silva, on the afternoon of the Major's death, do you recall hearing a telephone ring?
Now that you mention it, I have not heard a single ring all weekend.
Correct. The telephone lines have been down for the duration of our stay, meaning the telephone call that was received and promptly directed to the Major's study was yet another act of trickery and deceit. But it did not end there. When I entered the study for the first time, it was obvious someone had already been there and falsified the scene to stage a burglary and clear away important evidence, including the murder weapon. What followed was an investigation that had already been hindered. But even those lengths were not enough to derail me for long.
I think we have all had enough of your self-praise, Detective. Perhaps you would like to tell us who killed him now?
Madame, as I'm sure you would expect, it is not as simple as that. What many of you do not know is the discussion that was had between the Major and Monsieur Beckers earlier that day.
What has that got to do with anything? I told you I didn't kill him.
That I know to be true. What you do not know is that it was not only his ears that heard your spoken words.
I hope you are not implying I had something to do with it.
No, madame, there was another. Mademoiselle Elisabeth. You are all aware that the Major was hired by Monsieur de Silva to front the security during the workers' strikes. What very few of you know is that it was the Major's order that instigated the vicious attacks on those unarmed men and resulted in numerous deaths, including Mademoiselle Elisabeth's fiancé, Luc. Monsieur Beckers confronted the Major, declaring that he was to hand himself in. That is what Mademoiselle Elisabeth overheard. Now, knowing the truth, she waited until the Major was away from his study. After he stepped outside following the confrontation with Monsieur Demir's fist, it looked to be the perfect opportunity, or so she thought. The Major returned and found her looking for the proof she required to hand him over to the authorities.
If the maid bumped him off, why hasn't she been arrested?
The events that followed in the study are not those of a cold-blooded murder, but one of a young girl that had no other option but to protect her own life.
Sounds to me, Detective, like you have taken a shine to this young girl and would rather protest her innocence than arrest her for murder, the crime she has committed. Jeez, this is gonna make for a juicy story.
Mademoiselle, I ask you this. You have seen the Major's anger before, oui?
What if I have?
How do you think he would have reacted if someone was to find proof that he had committed a terrible act, and that if made public, would surely result in his incarceration? Exactement.
It is quite the story you have told, Detective, but all I have heard is that Elizabeth overheard a conversation blaming the Major for her fiancé's death, and she murdered him in revenge. A servant killing a man that is as revered as he was. She will face the noose.
I am not denying that a man has lost his life, but it is not the crime of murder that you all believe. While the Major did not deserve to die in such a way, it was his actions towards Mademoiselle Elisabeth that drove her to defend herself in any way she could. Mademoiselle Elisabeth will be punished, but we will let the law decide the severity of her punishment.
She has played you like a fiddle, Detective, acting the innocent victim. She will be arrested and hanged for her crime, like every other cold-blooded killer.
Here.
Give her what she deserves.
The girl has got to pay for what she's done.
ちょっとあんたたち。いや、書斎での出来事はこれ以上ないほど明確に説明した。みんな少佐に抱いていた認識を、彼が犯してきた恐ろしい罪と彼から受けてきた仕打ちを忘れてしまっている。そうそうそう。あれほどさ、最初は少佐さん言ってたのに、今になって、ね。この屋敷にいる人々がマドモアゼル・エリザベスの判決に悪い影響を及ぼすことがあってはならない。彼らの過去の行動こそがこの不幸な状況を生み、多くの命が失われた元凶なのだと理解させてやる必要がある。ではならない。エリザベスの判決に悪い影響があってはならない。彼らの過去の行動こそがこの不幸な状況を生んで、多くの命が失われた元凶なのだと理解させてやる。 エリザベスの判決をいい方向に持っていくために何かが始まるのか。労働者のストライキだけでなく、その結果起こった複数の暴動にも全員関わっていることを思い出させてやるべきだ。お前ら思い出せと。お前らだって悪いんだぞっていうこと。
Those of you that are calling for the hanging of Mademoiselle Elizabeth, have you forgotten the roles you played? Your actions have been far from innocent.
Look, Detective, I see where you are going with this, but it's not going to work. So maybe the strikes were down to De Silva and Beckers. But don't try and drag me into their mistakes.
これでもどうしよう。長そうだな。一人一人やっていくんだよね、これね。そしたらちょっと一旦ここで休憩しよう。長くなりそうだ。じゃあ、戦いに入る前に一旦休憩する。